October 17th is globally recognized as the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. And in commemoration of the day, the Institute of Development Studies, University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, held the maiden edition of its annual Colloquium on poverty with the theme, Acting Together to End Poverty. Speaking at the event, Professor Ben Woods, director of the Institute of Development Studies, emphasized the importance of the day, noting that it serves as a reminder of the collective responsibility of governments, institutions, and citizens to fight poverty in all its forms.
In this year, 2025, 808 million people, or 9.9% of world population, live in extreme poverty. Why this figure is disturbing? The more disturbing fact draws from our local reality, as the World Bank in the past week revealed that 139 million out of 215 million Nigerians live in poverty. This figure translates to a staggering 65% of the population and invites deepest concerns from all levels. We have adopted this day as our annual flagship event to join in sharing experiences and insights on progresses achieved, challenges ahead, and lessons learned in confronting poverty. In ideas, we constantly reflect on the challenges around access to food and nutrition for the population, healthcare, access to safe water, access to education or functional literacy, basic infrastructure, security, and many more.
In his remarks, the Action Aid Nigeria Country Director, represented by Head of Program Celestine Okudiliodo, revealed that the organization has launched a national initiative known as the Movement for the Transformation of Nigeria, which now boasts over 30 million members nationwide dedicated to driving change through civic engagement and community action.
Today, as Action Aid in Abuja, we are launching a movement called Movement for the Transformation of Nigeria, with over 30 million members across different professional groups. Why are we doing that? We want collective voices, to engage government to be able to respond effectively and actively in carrying out its role, the basic role of government, which is the welfare and security of the people. What must be done? There's a whole lot to be done. And we are here today for solutions, to provide different solutions. Government must reinvest in people. Government must prioritize health, education, social protection, not charity. Nigerians, we are not charity. They should not approach us through charity, palliatives, not through palliatives, okay? Government should prioritize this area, social protection, as fundamental human rights. Social protection in forms of cash transfers and all that. Cash transfers has been effective across Latin America, even Asia. But the question is, why is it not working here? Last month, the finance minister told us they've spent 300 billion to reach out to 400 Nigerian families. I don't know whether anybody here has received any part of that money. Ensure accountability. Every naira of public money must be accounted for. The leakages, corruption, inefficiencies that enrich and drain our wealth. We must empower our women. The women and
delivering the keynote address, Dr. Friday Ohuche, Chief Economic Advisor to the Abia State Government, described poverty as a form of apartheid, quoting Nelson Mandela and other global thinkers.
The first one is from Nelson Mandela. He says, massive poverty and obscene inequality are such terrible scourges of our times in which the world boasts breathtaking advances in science, technology, industry, and wealth accumulation, that they have to rank alongside slavery and apartheid as social evils. Please take note of those words. It's coming from a global leader. That poverty can be ranked as appetite. You see how horrendous appetite was. That is the level of seriousness that poverty presents. The second quotation I will take from John F. Kennedy, who said, if a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. True or false? It's true. Because everybody is under siege now. Crisis, crime everywhere. The rich is hiding because the poor cannot eat. So these are very serious statements made several years ago, but they still remain as relevant today as it was those years. The last one is from Mother Teresa, who said, when a poor person dies of hunger, it has not happened because God did not take care of him or her. It has happened because neither you nor I wanted to give that person what or that poverty is persisting.
Dr. Ohuche further outlined a set of practical recommendations for the sustainable reduction of poverty, emphasizing the need for inclusive governance, investments in education, and support for small-scale enterprises.
Because of the pervasive nature of poverty and its very devastating impact on our economy, civil society must hold political parties accountable for, when you see their manifesto or constitution, how do you address poverty? That's the first recommendation I've made. The second one is that civil society must call attention of the Nigerian electorate that current approach of destroying political platforms for opposition politicians is not in anybody's interest. Because you are denying opposition politicians opportunities to have alternative policy options for fighting poverty. Civil society must rise. That one is happening now. And they are bragging about it in the Senate, who we sign here for. Corruption leads to leakage of resources with which to fight poverty. And as long as our corruption is growing, our attempt to fight corruption will remain suboptimal.
For his part, the Igwe of Ugwaji Autonomous Community, Chief Chinedu Nwobodo, stressed that the fight against poverty must be government-driven, noting that communities can only thrive when leadership is intentional about inclusive economic policies.
We can't end poverty until government drives it. The poverty in our system is systemic. It's systemic. If you do well, you go back. If you don't do well, you won't go back. Because voting counts. Can vote begin to count in Nigeria?
Also speaking, Judith Leville, UNICEF's Chief of Field Services in Nigeria, presented shocking statistics on child and household poverty, urging all stakeholders to work together in addressing the systemic issues that keep millions trapped in deprivation.
In Enugu, do not have access to any form of social protection schemes. That's enormous again. It could change within a few years if there are laws, if there are programs that are based on evidence generated by some research, in some partnership, it can really change. So all of you, all of us can work together to have a revolution and change the face of development in the Southeast.
The Colloquium featured a dynamic panel discussion moderated by Vin Martin Obiora, president of Signature TV. Panelists included Chika Mba, Enugu WASH coordinator, Professor Ike Obi, former commissioner for health Enugu State, Barrister Crownwell Chibuzo, a youth and education expert, Nnamdi Odo of Clean Foundation, Celestine Okudili Odo of Action Aid Nigeria, and the president of the Enugu Chamber of Commerce, ESIMA. Together, they shared on-the-ground experiences and policy insights on poverty alleviation strategies.
At the center of this universal health coverage, unfortunately, is health financing mechanisms. So one of the simplest health financing mechanisms that would help to keep people stable with healthcare delivery is health insurance. Now, we all also know that health insurance delivery in Nigeria has been an uphill task because the percentages of all those who are under health insurance is very, very poor in Nigeria as a whole, and Enugu is not exempted.
We have established the nexus between security and poverty in the sense that from our various interventions from the onset, CLEAN was viewing security from the perspective of building the capacity of the security agencies. So we work with the Nigerian police as a primary agency that maintains internal security in Nigeria. So
there's too much dependence on government to give us. And I don't think it's very healthy. I'm not saying government should not provide, but somebody talked about that top-bottom approach is horrible, right? I agree. But I tell you that our people are so steeped in that top-bottom approach that if you tell them to work from bottom, they seem to be lost.
ActionAid, as an organization, we exist to fight poverty. That is all we do. And fighting poverty, we've come to understand there are certain things that work and certain things that don't work. Maybe I start with what are not working from our experience. The top-down approach to fighting poverty doesn't work.
Okay. So these are the activities we do to help reduce poverty in Nigeria. The first one is IGA, home gardening, education, cash transfer, vocational skill training, food support, and BSLA. So take them one after the other. So income generating activities is where we help our beneficiaries to support them financially to start up a small business.
Across the whole world, women till the land, feed families and sustain communities, yet they earn the least, own the least, and suffer the most from poverty and inequality. But there's another layer to this injustice: gender-based violence. Poverty and violence are deeply connected. Violence pushes women into poverty, and poverty makes them more vulnerable to abuse, exploitation, and harmful practices.
In his closing remarks, Professor Osita Obu expressed satisfaction with the deliberations and called for increased funding and stronger partnerships with organizations like ActionAid to sustain the momentum in tackling poverty.
We sometimes blame the poor and the choices they make is because you are also not in their situation. If it taxes cognition, it leads to poor choices. That is why somebody can sell their vote for 5,000, for 2,000. You may not understand it because you are not at their level. If we're not starting from the same point, who is then going to abridge it to make the system fair and just so that the poor themselves can begin to rise? That is why very easily we resort back to what the government is doing or is not doing. You know, it was President Roosevelt who summarized it. He said, necessitous men are not free. When you have no job, no house, no food, you're hungry, you are not a citizen. So if we have 138 million people multi-dimensionally poor, they are not citizens of Nigeria.
The event drew community leaders, civil society organizations, academics, and development partners all united in one voice to act together, share responsibility, and take decisive steps towards ending poverty in Nigeria. As the world renews its commitments to eradicating poverty, the call from Enugu resonates beyond the conference walls that the end of poverty will not come by words alone, but through collective will, sustained action, and shared humanity.